All right, so today, let's talk about loneliness.
Yeah.
It can be a real downer,
It can.
especially I think when it comes to relocation.
Uh-huh.
And you've given us some fascinating material on this.
Yeah.
So we're going to dive into it today.
Oh, so.
You'd think that moving to a new place would be exciting,
Right. A new
a
job.
fresh start.
All that. Yeah.
But then sometimes that wave of loneliness just kind of hits you.
It does. And it's so unexpected.
And it's so jarring.
You think you're going to be so excited, and then you're like, wait a second.
Yeah, this is supposed to be fun. Why do I feel so alone?
Yeah, why am I crying myself to sleep?
So let's unpack a little bit why relocation and loneliness seem to go hand in hand so often.
Okay.
And more importantly,
What to do about it.
yes, what can we actually do about it?
Exactly.
So our source points out that one of the biggest reasons is the loss of your connections.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not even just missing, John and Susie.
Right.
It's about losing that whole network that you've built over time.
It really is.
It's like all of a sudden you're in a play
Uh-huh.
and there's a whole new cast.
Yeah.
A whole new crew.
Right.
And they're speaking a language you don't even understand.
Exactly.
So it's no wonder you feel a little lost.
It makes sense.
Our source calls it the stranger in a strange land syndrome,
Yes.
which I think is very fitting.
very true.
Everything's unfamiliar.
It is.
And that can really amplify that feeling of just being out of place.
Yeah. Have you ever traveled somewhere where you didn't speak the language?
Oh, absolutely. And
It is so isolating.
yeah. And even when you do eventually start to feel at home in the new city,
Right.
there's still the challenge of actually building new connections.
Yeah. And that's where it gets really tricky.
It does.
As our source points out, connection takes time.
It does.
You can't just snap your fingers and have a new best friend.
Nope.
It takes effort.
Uh-huh.
It takes shared experiences.
It does.
And it also takes a willingness to be vulnerable,
Oh, yeah, for sure.
which can be hard. It is.
In a new place.
Hmm.
One thing I thought was interesting is that our source mentions that joining a group that meets weekly for at least 6 weeks
Oh, wow.
has actually been shown to significantly increase feelings of belonging.
Interesting. So like a consistent effort over time.
Yeah, it's not a quick fix,
Yeah.
but if you put in the work,
It seems like it pays off.
you get the reward.
Mm-hmm.
And I think about it like building a fire.
Okay.
It takes time to get those flames going strong.
Yeah.
But once they are,
They're so worth it.
they're so worth it.
You're warm.
The last thing that our source mentions is this concept of an identity shift
Hmm.
that often happens with relocation.
Yeah.
And so you're no longer defined by your old roles
Mhm.
or your old routines.
It's true.
So help me understand this identity shift thing a little bit better.
Okay.
Is it like you become a whole new person?
Well,
I mean, I understand, changing your address.
right.
But do you really change who you are at your core
That's a really good question.
when you move?
I don't think it's that you become a completely different person,
Okay.
but I do think that your sense of self can get shaken up when you move.
I actually see that.
So think about it.
Yeah.
You're no longer the go-to friend for advice.
Mhm.
You're not the star player on your soccer team anymore
Yeah.
or the regular at your coffee shop.
Right, right.
And, those roles really help to shape your identity.
Yeah.
So when you lose them, it can be really disorienting.
So it's not like losing yourself completely.
No.
It's more like you need to recalibrate your internal compass
Yeah, I like that.
in this new environment.
Exactly. It's a chance to kind of redefine yourself, figure out, what aspects of your identity are really core to who you are
Mhm.
and which ones were maybe more tied to your old life.
Yeah, that's actually a really interesting way to look at it.
Yeah.
So we got these 4 big reasons why relocation can lead to feeling lonely.
Okay, let's recap.
Severed connections,
Yeah.
feeling like a stranger, the time it takes to build new bonds,
That's a big one.
and this whole identity shift thing.
Right.
It's starting to paint a clearer picture, for me at least,
Yeah, me too.
of why that feeling of isolation can be so strong.
Yeah.
But don't worry.
Please don't.
Our source doesn't just leave us hanging
No, they wouldn't do that to us.
with a bunch of depressing facts.
Right.
They actually offer some strategies to combat loneliness
That's the good news.
and rebuild those connections.
Yes. And it might feel overwhelming at first,
Ah, I can imagine.
but you really can take steps to get reconnected in your new community.
So where do we start?
What?
Let's unpack these antidotes to relocation loneliness
Okay.
and see what you can actually do
Let's do it.
to feel more at home in your new city.
Yes. Well, I think one of the most important things is to actually acknowledge those feelings of loneliness.
Okay.
Don't try to just brush them under the rug or pretend like they're not there.
So lean into discomfort a little bit.
Yeah, kind of.
Not exactly what I was hoping to hear.
No, it's not the most fun advice.
But I guess ignoring a problem doesn't usually make it go away.
Right, it usually just makes it worse.
Okay, so allow yourself to feel it,
Yeah,
process it,
yeah.
and just understand that it's normal.
It's a perfectly normal reaction to a big change.
Okay, step 1, acknowledge the loneliness. Got it. What's next?
So while you're doing that, we have all this amazing technology
Oh, right.
to connect with our loved one.
Video calls, texting,
Yeah.
all that good stuff.
All those silly filters.
Oh, yeah, the filters.
Make yourself look like a cat or a dog.
Exactly.
It sounds trivial,
Yeah.
but those little interactions can really help
Yeah, I can see that.
to maintain that sense of connection.
Yeah, it's like you're still sharing those moments,
Uh-huh.
even if you're not physically together.
Exactly. And it's not a replacement for being there in person,
Of course not.
but it's certainly better than nothing. But it's important to stay connected to your old support system, but building a new one in your new city is just as important.
Okay, so how do we do that?
How do we make new friends?
Yeah, how do we actually make those new connections?
One of the best ways is to join local groups and communities
Okay.
that align with your interests.
Like what kind of groups are we talking about?
So, book clubs,
Okay.
hiking groups,
Mm-hmm.
volunteer organizations,
I like that.
sports leagues,
That's a good one.
whatever you're into.
Our source even mentions some online platforms.
Oh, yeah.
They can help you find people
Cool.
with shared interests.
I like that.
Like there's one where you can find groups for everything, from board games to bird watching.
Wow. Really? It's pretty cool. It's like a digital matchmaker
Yeah.
for finding your tribe.
Exactly.
And something else that I think is really helpful is to really embrace the newness of it all.
Okay.
Instead of longing for what's familiar, try to view your new city as an adventure.
Okay, so ditch the woe is me attitude.
Yes.
Put on my explorer hat.
Exactly.
Be a tourist in your own city.
Okay, but how do I actually do that?
We'll start by trying new things.
Okay.
Check out local events,
Uh-huh.
visit museums,
Mm-hmm.
explore different neighborhoods.
All right, I can do that.
You might be surprised at what you find.
Yeah, you never know.
Yeah.
I remember when I moved to a new city a few years ago, I forced myself to say yes to every invitation for like the first month.
Wow.
It was a little overwhelming,
I bet.
but I met some amazing people.
That's awesome.
And I tried things I never would have done otherwise.
That's a perfect example.
So it's about shifting your perspective from feeling like a stranger to feeling like you're actually part of the city.
Exactly. Instead of, I'm just visiting,
Yeah,
it's, I live here now.
I like that.
This is my home.
But how do you make that leap?
From observer to participant.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's about finding ways to actually engage with your community.
Okay.
So maybe you volunteer at a local organization or
Uh-huh.
you join a neighborhood association,
Yeah.
or you just strike up conversations with people at your coffee shop.
Mm-hmm.
Those little interactions can really make a difference.
It's like those choose your own adventure books,
Oh, yeah.
where one seemingly insignificant decision leads you down a totally different path.
I love those books.
You never know where a simple hello might take you.
That's so true.
Yeah. It really is like building a bridge
Uh-huh.
between your old life and your new one.
Yeah,
And all those little interactions.
Right.
They're the mortar that holds it all together.
they are.
But, I can imagine it's got to be tough
Oh, yeah.
to keep putting yourself out there,
Mm,
especially when you're feeling lonely
for sure.
and maybe even a little discouraged.
Yeah.
So what do you do then?
Well, I think that's where having a routine can be really helpful.
Okay.
We talked about this a little bit earlier,
We did.
but I think it's worth emphasizing.
Because a routine can really help
Yeah.
to give you a sense of structure and normalcy.
Right, like some stability
Exactly.
in the midst of all this change.
Yeah, and that can be really grounding.
Okay, so it's like you're creating landmarks
Mhm.
on your internal map
I like that.
of the city.
Yeah.
Like Tuesday night is yoga night.
Right.
Sunday morning, I explore a new coffee shop.
Exactly.
Okay, I can see that.
And the great thing about a routine
Yeah.
is that it can actually help you connect with other people.
Oh, how so?
Well, if you go to the same yoga class every week,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to start recognizing faces
Right.
and maybe even strike up some conversations.
It's like those parallel lines in geometry
Okay.
that never intersect until suddenly, boom, a transversal line.
I love that.
And everything changes.
And that's great.
And so as you're establishing these routines and putting yourself out there,
Yeah.
remember to be patient.
Yes. So important.
Rome wasn't built in a day.
It was.
And neither is a fulfilling social circle.
Exactly.
So how can our listeners shift their perspective from relocation equals loneliness
Right.
to relocation equals opportunity?
Well, I think our source emphasizes the importance of focusing on the potential
Okay.
that lies ahead.
So instead of dwelling on what you've left behind, you're looking ahead
Yeah.
with a sense of excitement and possibility.
I love that.
It's like closing one chapter and opening a brand new one.
Yes.
Full of blank pages, waiting to be filled with new experiences and connections.
That's beautiful.
But let's be real.
Okay.
Even with all this talk of opportunity and excitement, there are going to be days
Oh, for sure.
where that loneliness creeps back in.
It happens.
So what advice would you give to someone
Yeah.
who's struggling with those moments?
You know, I think the most important thing is to remember that you're not alone. This is incredibly common. Millions of people experience these same feelings of isolation when they move to a new city.
Okay.
So reach out to your support system.
Yeah.
Even if they're far away, talk to someone about what you're going through.
Yeah.
And be kind to yourself.
It's so easy to get caught up in that comparison game
It is.
and think that everybody else is just sailing through this transition.
Oh, yeah. And you're the only one who's struggling.
Exactly.
But the truth is, everyone's journey is different.
That's true.
Some people adapt more quickly than others.
And that's okay.
Yeah. There's no right or wrong way to do this.
So it's about acknowledging those feelings
Yeah.
without judging yourself
Yeah.
for having them.
It's like giving yourself permission to have a bad day without letting it derail your entire life.
Right.
And remember, those feelings are temporary
Okay.
as you continue to put yourself out there
Yeah.
and explore your new city. Build those connections. Those feelings will fade. And you'll start to feel more and more at home.
So to recap what we've learned today,
Okay.
relocation can lead to loneliness
For sure.
for a variety of reasons.
Yeah.
But there are also plenty of things you can do to combat those feelings
There are.
and build a fulfilling social life in your new city.
Yeah, this.
Stay connected with loved ones, join those local groups,
Yeah.
explore your surroundings, establish routines,
Absolutely.
and above all, be patient and kind to yourself.
Yes.
It's a journey, not a destination.
So true.
And even though the path might be a little bumpy at times,
It might be.
it can lead you to a place of greater connection and growth
It can.
and belonging.
Absolutely.
You might even discover that your new city
Yeah.
becomes more than just a place you live.
Right.
It becomes a place where you truly thrive.
I love that.
And on that note,
Yes.
we'd love to hear from you, our listeners. What are your experiences with relocation?
Yeah. Tell us your stories.
What strategies have helped you overcome loneliness and build a sense of belonging
Yeah.
in a new place?
We'd love to hear from you.
Share your stories, your insights, your tips with us.
Because even though relocation can feel like a solo journey,
Yeah,
we're all in this together.
we are.
And by sharing our experiences and supporting each other, we can turn this challenging transition
Right.
into a transformative adventure that leads us to greater connection, fulfillment, and belonging.
So until next time,
Yes.
keep exploring, keep connecting, keep embracing the journey.
We'll see you on the next deep dive.
See you then.